Have you ever wanted to make a movie? Thanks to technology, anyone can make a movie. Filmmaking is the new garage band. Welcome to Framelines, the show about people making movies.
Framelines is brought to you in part by Sabo Studios, gear for the show. Tape Central, providing your media needs. Production Partners Media, affordable media solutions. And by grants from the Greater Columbus Arts Council and the Ohio Arts Council.
Up next, Framelines features an up-and-coming filmmaker who's already amassed a body of work.
Marcus and I, we were attached to the 1st Infantry Division. Round up any POWs, assistant transfers. And we're making the push up to Qasr. It's Tuesday morning. Some of the most amazing sunrises and sunsets you'll ever see. In nighttime, just stars from one end of the sky to the other. So Marcus and I were called up to the front of the line. You don't think about it beforehand. You know which one you're going to take. You just don't think about it before.
When I went to college, my plan was actually to do audio production. I went to Austin thinking, okay, this is what I'm going to do. So I decided I would try to get into the film courses, which were even more difficult to get into. I went to Florida State Graduate Film Conservatory. So after graduate school, I was doing more indie cinematography. I decided I would move back out to LA. I got a phone call saying, hey, from a friend of mine who knew that I always wanted to teach at the college level. Said, hey, we've got a sort of summer position open for a couple classes. Do you want to come down here to Florida, to Miami, Florida, and teach? And I was going through a dry period as a freelancer in LA. And I said, let's do it. My wife got a tenure track position at Ohio State. I moved down here, and that brought me to Ohio, where I've been here 10 years. So, I got to Ohio, I had this position at Denison, and I started teaching. And I still had there was still this residual, I'm making movies, I'm working, but I'm not making my own films. And once I started teaching, really got back into, okay, it's time for me to be a filmmaker again. It's time for me to start making movies. And so I made this film called Waiting for the Sky to Fall, this short film, the first thing I shot in Ohio.
I love this song.
Me too.
What's it called?
Harry's. I'm telling you, they make the best late night breakfast.
That sounds good to me. The lady at the motel said everything around here shut down by 10.
I guess you're lucky you met me tonight. I gotta tell you though, it is ways off 16.
That's all right. I'm headed that way anyway. Just the way I see it, 2 a.m. is just the start of a new day.
All right then, let's go.
Let's go.
I made it for a couple reasons, one of which was for my students. I wanted to teach my students how to make a film on a professional level. And so I brought them in as crew. I wrote the story, I wrote the script, I directed, I DP'd. While casting for Waiting for the Sky to Fall, I ended up working with this local actor named John Osbeck, and we had a great working relationship together. I was about to finish the short, and he called me up and said, hey Mark, let's go have a beer. I want to talk to you about something. I said, okay. And he said, look, I've got this idea for this feature. I was wondering if you would shoot it for me. I was going to come on as the cinematographer and sort of help him through this process. He loved it. I was excited about it, and so we started into pre-production on making this feature, -1. The story is totally his. It's about a group of guys that get shipped off to the Middle East to fight. It was really about, not a movie about war, but a movie about how war affects the people who get shipped off and the people who are left behind. John and I worked together extremely well. we were both, I think, respectful of each other's opinions. And frankly, because we were shooting digitally, we could do 5 takes. I'm proud of the film. It was something that, it was never my film because it was John's story, but certainly at some point in the process, I really felt like it was my film. I really became invested in it. And we've taken it to a number of festivals, we won a number of awards, and I'm proud of it. It's not the perfect film, but I think what it does pretty well. It's certainly something that I'm proud of, even though it wasn't mine. And I had this short, which ended up being called My Dearest Love, which is about an Indian woman who's about to get married. Completely inspired by being out in the desert, staying in this straw bale, domed B&B, this crazy sort of called Eve's Garden, and they had this stained glass window on the wall, and I'd been listening to some music, and I was looking at this stained glass window, and just started writing and came up with this sort of idea. I did a follow-up to that, which is actually an animated piece called Summer, because I knew I wanted to do something that was animated. I wanted to branch out from what I had been doing. From that, I decided I would keep this ball rolling, and then do another piece, also set to music. This is a time-lapse piece that I ended up doing, called This Too Shall Pass. And then there'll be a fourth piece, which will be stop animation, which is something that I've always loved. Again, from my childhood, I think about the Sinbad movies, and I think about the skeleton or the dinosaurs, anything that had that stop motion movement to it. And so I wanted to do something like that too. So I'm going to make a fourth film, which will be all stop motion animation. When my students from Denison graduate who want to go into production, they always sort of think about where they want to move after they graduate. And the question is always, do I go to New York or do I go to LA? I tell them all the same thing. There's production everywhere. Columbus is a totally fine place to go. New York City is a totally fine place to go. North Carolina, you can really, there are these filmmaking communities everywhere. And as the tools get better and better and become more and more available, the films get better and better. Not because the tools make the films, but because those tools allow people to practice.
Coming up next, Framelines puts a spotlight on a person, place, or thing related to filmmaking.
SOFA helps engage filmmakers of all levels, whether you are a student, a hobbyist, or a professional filmmaker.
SOFA was started in the fall of the year 2000. We've been going ever since. We've had a meeting every month ever since that date. We have our meetings in a 40s era theater called the 20th Century Theater.
SOFA does announcements at approximately 9 o'clock where people talk about whatever projects they're working on, or if they're looking for crew, or if they're just getting started in the business and they're looking for more knowledge and resources.
People have come to us at beginning stages of the project, or people that really didn't know how to approach filmmaking, and we've helped them, and longtime SOFA members are really proud of what we've accomplished.
SOFA does workshops and seminars. Well, they're expanding their workshops and seminars. Their mixer events are becoming more of studio nights where they do focus on a specific topic.
Everybody is welcome at SOFA. We cater to people of all abilities and all experience levels. We just ask that they want to learn and be good, citizens of SOFA.
A lot of filmmakers, when they're just starting out, don't think of things that are really important, like insurance, like feeding your crew, like making sure all of your legal ends are tied as far as your releases are concerned and your copyrights for your music. So SOFA helps bring a lot of knowledge points together to better all of our filmmakers in our community. I see SOFA really helping to support the industry as a whole in our community, to support our filmmakers day in and day out, because they all need to eat, they need to pay their rent, and as much as we love to do our passion and have our big passion project, we still need to be able to do those kind of little things in order to survive.
I think SOFA in the future will be pretty much where we are right now, will be the place to go for the novice and the professional to learn more about their craft. We will work with other filmmaking organizations and film commissions to have people think about Cincinnati and Ohio in general as the place to go to shoot a film when they think about filmmaking.
Filmmaking is not just going to the megaplex theater and tuning out on a big production. Although it's great and it's fun to do sometimes, it is a collaborative art, and it takes a lot of people to do it, to put together a really good production, something that has passion, that has movement, that makes you really feel when you're sitting there in the seat in the theater.
Scott Spears shows us how to make movies with this filmmaking tip.
Okay, in this tip, we're going to talk about C-stands. These are a workhorse tool on your movie set. They have all kinds of functions. So let's break it down. What is a C-stand? Here we have the legs of a C-stand. They're a lot different than a normal light stand. You have a high leg, a medium leg, and a low leg. And these add for more stability. And sometimes you'll have to drop a sandbag on them to make them a little more stable. This is what the legs on a C-stand look like when they're all folded down. This is good for transport. They don't take a lot of room up in your grip truck. So you basically just pull the legs apart like this and create a nice stable platform, and then set those on the ground. Well, the other basic part is just the stand, and then you can add on the arm and the knuckle. This is the gobo head, which holds the arm in place. I'll just pull it out so we can look at that. This is the knuckle, and you can attach all kinds of things to this, like flags or foam core for patterns, or all kinds of various things. Okay, one of the primary functions of a C-stand is to put light control devices like a flag on the C-stand and place it in front of a light or whatever to control the light. So this is just your basic 18 by 24 flag, and then tighten it down, going to the right to make sure that if it would be loose, the weight would actually tighten it down. If you went the other way and said you rigged the flag like this and it was just a little loose, eventually the weight of the flag would loosen the knuckle and the flag would fall. Another basic part of your C-stand are the risers, and again, you just loosen one of the knobs, take it up, and again, you can go up multiple risers. One thing you can insert into your C-stand is a maper clamp, and why would you want to do this? Well, sometimes you need to grab things with your C-stand, like a set wall just to hold up a corner or something. Again, you can put that in your C-stand, tighten it in, then use this to grab whatever. Okay, here we are in some odd lighting, but what I'm doing is showing you the popular thing to do with a C-stand is to rig some foam core for a bounce light. We'll just lock it in there, and you see now coming off this foam core is a nice soft fill light. It's a cheap way to create a soft fill. Another thing you do is cut some holes in a hunk of foam core and then rig that off your C-stand, shine a light through it to create a pattern. If you look at this effect, you have an overhead light. With a normal light stand, there's no way you could rig this. But with a C-stand, you can put your light on the arm it out over the top of your actor, and boom, you have this great ominous looking overhead light. The one thing you want to make sure when you rig a light overhead like this is you're arming it way out, but the weight of it's going to try to pull the stand over. So make sure to put sandbags on the legs and make sure that the high leg is toward the weight. We've barely touched the surface of what you can do with C-stands, but I think they're an invaluable tool on any film set. I highly recommend as you build up your arsenal, add some C-stands. They're going to give you lots of options on your set.
Framelines went on set for the shoot of William Lee's Architect of Chaos.
You were expecting somebody else? You have been worshiping men, evil men who ain't seen nothing yet.
Today we're shooting a teaser trailer for our new film, Architect of Chaos. We're here at Coleraine Avenue in Cincinnati, Ohio. We've got a warehouse that we're going to use, and we have a couple of the stars of the film actually here today to help make this thing come alive. The trailer serves a dual purpose. One, it lets the public at large know that this is what's coming next from William Lee. Secondly, it's going to serve as an entree to the investors in the film, exactly what they're going to get when the film is done. So we're trying to give everybody a little taste of the action and the adventure that's going to be in this film. My film experiences started 1974. We had moved from New York to Ohio. And one summer evening, my sister Carol took us to a drive-in and we saw Bruce Lee. And soon after seeing those Bruce Lee films, I was done. I was hooked, and ever since that time I've been shooting movies. I've shot in every format there is, 16 millimeter, half-inch, digibeta, digital, and now obviously shooting in HD. So one of the older filmmakers who's made the transition into the digital age. We're going to shoot parts of it in southern Ohio, a lot of it in Kentucky. Funny thing that happened a few days ago was we got some interest from some foreign groups. So there is a possibility this may be shot overseas. A portion of it is going to be shot here. The teaser obviously today is being shot here. If you have an idea about a film, go ahead and do it. I know too many filmmakers who come to a certain part of the pre-production process, or even while they're in production, or even in post-production, and all of a sudden they go, wait a minute, I'm way over my head. You really can't do that. You really have to be invested in it, just like anything else in life. Once you put both feet in, you got to take that walk. It may be a bitter end or it may be a great ending, but I don't believe in going halfway. I mean, you really got to commit to it and you just got to do it. Don't start something and just let it go and say you'll get back to it, because it'll never happen. Once you leave something, you in your own personal ambitions and goals, you move on. And that thing is still sitting there, so you don't ever want to do that. Edge Tolerance was a film shot on 16 millimeter. The majority of the film, I mean, it was decent, but you could tell that there was something missing there. But we got it done. It was a feature-length film, it was an hour and a half, and it was eventually picked up by tapeworm video distributors in Hollywood and released around the world, which is another lesson for filmmakers. You don't necessarily have to have the best film to get a release. I mean, there are many things that go into getting films distributed, and it did reasonably well. It was a feature that sort of got my name out there. The next film that really got to that kind of level was a film called Code Black, which is our first really big release. That film was picked up by a real distributor, York Entertainment in Los Angeles, and at this point, Code Black is in about 50 countries. It's on Netflix, it's on Blockbuster Online, it's at Blockbuster stores, Hollywood Video, it's all over the world. I haven't seen a lot of money from it, but it's out there, and once again, we were able to achieve what we set out to do. And I think for a filmmaker, that's what's important, getting the thing done. Dark Target was a film we produced last year. Dark Target was based on the Hurricane Katrina controversy. In the film that we shot, we proposed that the government had created an airborne chemical which is basically making people in lower class neighborhoods sort of go crazy, riot or whatever, creating a state of martial law. Very controversial topic. So it is now available Amazon.com, Amazon Online, YouTube, all over as well. So aspiring filmmakers, they have to avoid the tendency to be discouraged by other experts that tell them they can't do it. Once they started doing digital, editing, Final Cut Pro, Avid, all the little home-based stuff that is truly professional grade, anybody can make a film. A lot of today's filmmakers could really use a couple of months cutting film. I'm sorry, it's crucial to understanding what a filmmaker does, what filmmaking is about, and how editing works. Because when you have pieces of physical film in your hand, you realize how precious every shot that you take is. You know, not to be obnoxious, if you want to be a real filmmaker, get a film camera. Go shoot some film, get it developed, and then cut that film into a coherent piece of cinema. Then I believe you can call yourself a filmmaker. Filmmaking, when you break it down, is like any other craft. You have to learn it from the ground up. You're not going to jump in the first day and do a George Lucas movie. It takes time. Some people catch on easier than others, but I think that if a person has the passion for it, they have the understanding for it, and the stuff they're producing is quality stuff, you can do it. It's just that simple.
Framelines held a roundtable discussion with composers who write music for film and video.
Let's start a little bit with Sean of kind of how did you get started from like just being a musician in music to going towards scoring?
I actually got involved in scoring because of my love for technology. I love computers, and I love to play with different kinds of software. And, I realized the tools that I was using and that I was really investing my time in are the same kinds of tools that other composers use to score film or to score games or to score TV. And so I always had an interest in composition. And so I found a way to marry my interest in music and technology and composing. And it kind of all came together when I was in my early 20s. And I've just been pursuing it since then. And it's really the technology aspects that drive me to want to become more involved and to do even more scoring.
And Charles, what really kind of drove you? Where did you start with kind of music, and how did it get into scoring?
Well, I had been involved in doing a lot of arranging and composing, mostly church music. And I met Parker in the early 2000s, about a year, 10 years ago. And I started getting an interest in working on scoring for films and television. Parker got an offer to write the score for a comedy series. And so we got involved in that, and we've done several short films, and we've really enjoyed the work.
How do you guys get found or find composing work for movies?
Also some resources online, different forums or boards that you can go through to see open positions. Unfortunately, those tend to be very heavily trafficked, so your competition is steep. Plus, there's always a composer out there willing to do for nothing or whatever. They're just trying to break in.
New things that have come up in some cases because somebody else talked to them and they said, you ought to talk to Charles and Parker. They did some good work for us.
Mm-hmm. But they knew about us.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point they knew about us.
So referrals are a big thing then, right?
Yeah.
Have your connections as an actor helped too? I mean, are any of the directors or producers you've worked with as an actor resulted in any?
Well, the funny thing is, and I don't know if it's telling on me, but I'm such a great actor that when I went to audition for this, I was turned down. So, but that's how we got our first score.
But then you still got to score
the
film.
Yeah, because on the application, I said, any other skill sets or whatever, and I said, I'm a composer, and that's where I got the call back after the audition. I didn't get any call back for my acting. I didn't hear either way, So I'm waiting for this call, and all of a sudden I get this, hey, we noticed you're a composer, and I thought, oh, switch gears? Okay, yeah, sure, we'll do that,
Yeah, I think I saw a short film where you not only scored it, but you were in it in a small role, and you played guitar for it too. That played into your character in that piece, right?
So was Charles. We both had cameos in the film.
I was in there for maybe a second, 2 seconds.
Yeah, it was a valuable 2 seconds. Father O'Mallory.
Right.
So again, for you, for film work, how do you find the film work? Do they find you? Is it still referrals, or do you go out to find it? How do you get hired for a film?
A lot of the film work I've got hired for is actually referrals. A lot of the other kind of work I get for games and stuff comes through my website because I pursue that more actively than what I do film. But I'm lucky to have worked with some great independent directors that continue to make films, and the people they make films with are now making films, and their cousins making a film, and their old college roommates making a film, and as you know, it just keeps, one person, and it just keeps growing and blossoming, and I've really been fortunate in that regard to have met people that are really eager to make films, and also grab people that are really eager to make films.
Do you have any specific genres of music that you have as your forte?
Charles and I are so diverse, and so that question becomes very difficult when somebody says, well, what do you think is your strength? If you were to sample our, the audio that we give to clients, we do it all from jazz to rock to pop to whatever. Mm-hmm. I think we do it fairly well, but I don't know if that works against us or not, because people aren't able to pigeonhole you and say, oh, you're those guys.
Yeah, like a lot of people are, you're the techno composer, or you're the orchestral composer.
Exactly.
And nobody's pigeonholed you guys yet then, right?
Not yet. And
what do you think is the biggest difference in the technology from kind of the time you started with music to where it's at today, and how that affects scoring?
Communication is number one. I mean, 5-10 years ago, I don't know that somebody from Columbus could ever be doing something over in Hollywood, Chicago, New York, or whatever. So the internet and the MP3.
Yeah, the social media definitely is a big thing. I think that's how we all get all of our work that's not local is websites, Facebook, Twitter. It's great. And the other thing is the virtual studio. I mean, you walk into my studio and it's just it's a spare bedroom. The way people would have to work, well, some people still work, but 15, 20 years ago, tons of rack mount hardware, multiple computers, multiple PCs. Now it's a virtual PC. It has everything I need in it. I have all the sounds I need at my fingertips. And it really allows you to kind of expedite the scoring process. It allows you to experiment with things that were maybe more difficult to do many years ago.
So I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and sharing your thoughts. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
For more information on the filmmakers, or if you would like a DVD of tonight's program, please visit www.framelines.tv. I seldom get to say this. That's a wrap. We'll see you next time on Framelines.